Welcome to Comic Wars. Think of the show as Fight Night, but without the mess of actual combat. The data will speak for itself before the outcome, but in case it doesn't, we will break all of it down in the outcome at the end of the show. Without further ado, let's dive right into the overview. So we don't have any guests tonight, so we won't have any guest guesses. This is where I would give the intros and then the guesses. So for those that are interested in being part of the show, jumping in as a guest, feel free to hit me up either in the chat, make a comment. Make sure if you are in the running to be a guest on the show, please like and subscribe now, as that's the only way you'll be selected is if you are a subscriber to the channel. On top of that, we're going to get into background details. Some of these details can and sometimes can actually be very, very crucial to deciding the outcome here, either for reach or weight, or maybe their day job provides the skills necessary. All of these details are listed. After that, then we get into the feats. So what are their greatest feats of strength, speed, durability, their martial prowess, their ingenuity, their gadgets, their powers? This is where we break these down to show what these fighters, these characters, would be bringing to combat. After that, then we would analyze these feats, these gadgets, these powers, to see really how they would line up and what kind of damage they can do, what they're capable of maybe evading or taking damage from. After that, then we get into the character pros and cons, is where we break it down. Where are going to be the strengths and weaknesses against each other? After that, then we would get into the guest analysis. Once again, we'd have to have a guest for this to be possible, but this would be where the guests would go through the data and explain their thoughts about it. After that, then we get into the outcome, where we break the fights down. Normally it comes down to some kind of a percentage, roughly, this percentage of the fight, or these fights would go to this person, this is why, and then the other percentage would go to the other fighter as well. Now, granted, there are some which are completely outmatched. In case of some, we have Alucard versus Blade. Blade was completely outclassed. He has nothing against Alucard from Castlevania, so therefore that would be a prime example of that. So without further ado, let's jump right into the background details of our first fighter. Wolf. Now, he is from Crowworks Comics, my own business, yes. I'm providing the information about him. He never actually fully came out into a comic. When I went on hiatus, he was already in the works, so there are already stories written, so I directly ripped from these. If I would have had a guest, they would have been able to read said stories and to kind of analyze what these characters are capable of. But he did appear in Rain City Origins, so there is some of this that I'm ripping directly from there, which Rain City Origins is the origin story of this character here, which details all these characters are characters that have history in Rain City, and it's the title, Rain City Origins. But his real name is Curtis Fox. He got his code name of Wolf while he was part of the lethal and very, very secretive group of vigilantes known as the Death Gods. And he had trained there since he was 14 years old. When he ran away, 15, when he ran away after he had been a hitman for roughly about a year or so, for AIM, which is a gang of teenager snipers that was just starting to become kind of a thing in Rain City, taking on hits, pretty challenging hits, but all of these teenagers were incredibly lethal in their aim, and he was ranked the best by far, being able to go and do some very, very amazing trick shots with a pistol. He was able to utilize the maximum range quite effectively, utilizing things like gravity and things. An intelligent kid, Not super smart, but when it comes to anything, when it comes to marksmanship, he is a genius. But he is roughly 5 foot 11 inches tall. He's not at his maximum height, as he is still technically under the limit of how tall he could grow, because the body does grow until I believe it's 21 years old. And he is approximately 180 pounds. Once again, this can differ depending on the time, but as of the time frame of the comic, it takes place in 2010 when we are first introduced really to him. His occupation is a vigilante, but he's also a world-renowned assassin. Nobody knows who he really is, except for a few people, Crow included. His area of operation, his main area of operation, is Rain City. As for his personality, he's incredibly cocky. He's arrogant, often underestimates others, even to the point of putting them down. Once again, he does this on purpose. He's also incredibly aggressive. He enjoys fighting in the thrill of combat. Consider somebody who would go into war just for fun. That would be Wolf. One of his first big missions, he took on an entire mercenary militia. That was over at Tel Megiddo in Israel. And they were using the old ruins there as a prison, if you will, of a certain ancient figure in the Croverse. I'm not going to give any details out. Now, I guess it's already down in Rain City Origins, but he was Faust, which is an immortal in the Croverse. Somebody who made a deal with a demon, Mephisto, and was able to actually make a couple deals with Mephisto and continually tricked him every single time, but is now on the run from Mephisto because demons don't like being tricked. But he was able to get him released and was able to complete his mission retrieving an old grimoire for the mysterious figure Raven. Quite the villainous foe. But he's also a former member of the Death Gods before they were split up by Crow, who ended up taking over leadership after it was suspected that, well, after Crow suspected that Raven had killed their former leader. And of course, Crow is in line to be leader next, under his will, under his last words, which angered Raven, and Crow disbanded them, also sending Wolf out as well. But enough about that. He is best friends with Daniel Parker, which is also Crow, and Antonio Rolfe, which is Debug. But he also has a one-sided rivalry with Crow. Crow does not partake. He does not view Wolf as a rival. In fact, Crow is also one of those people that views Curtis as more of a little brother, if you will, and often looks at his rivalry as hilarious, and looks down upon his skill as not really quite comparable to his. But after that, then we get into his feats. So he's quite the tough little cookie. So he's got strong enough sword swings that are capable of slicing through the barrel of a mercenary's tank. He did this in Rain City Origins by literally cutting it in half. So, pretty strong kid, but also his blade also has something to do with that as well. We'll get into that in just a minute. As for his durability, he does have carbon fiber weave plate armor, just like Crow, but he has also taken a single hit from Reaper, who's strong enough to rip a car door off with a single hand. And he was also able to still move afterward. Reaper is also considered the physically strongest new god of death, which is the newly reformed death gods. In fact, bringing in some rather sinister foes as well. He's considered the physically the strongest of the Mullen, he was able to shake off a hit. He actually exceeds Freak Show's strength capabilities, who we saw was able to damage Crow's armor. And Crow was able to shake that off, but still, this guy's able to, he's a much stronger foe. He's able to, as for speed, he's more acrobatic in combat than Crow. He flings himself around, he does a lot more flips, slides, things like this, he's more evasive, rather. But he's more acrobatic in combat than Crow, which is a big thing because Crow is incredibly acrobatic. He's easily able to evade multiple attacks at the same time from Shinigami, which are essentially like foot soldiers for the New Gods of Death. And when there were the Death Gods, they were also more or less little spies, if you will. But the Shinigami of the New Gods of Death were also trained at a much faster pace, and those that didn't make it through were executed because the secrets could not be out. As for what he was able to do, he was able to evade those attacks all incoming at once. He was able to weave in and out of those attacks. He's also evaded automatic gunfire from roughly 5 feet away. So that's pretty quick. And he did this through acrobatic maneuvers, doing back handsprings, flips, and all this just to get away. As for his combat capabilities, so looking at his martial prowess, you're going to see he's interesting, to say the least. But his combat is all about trying, if he needs to, he can fight, and he is a striker, if you look at it. But a lot of his stuff, he's trying to get away, tries to go and keep distance so he can use his firearms. However, he is also pretty masterful with a blade, and he does have his handy-dandy sword, his katana, or wakizashi rather, that he does use. So he tries to keep more or less a distance. He doesn't want to go and be right within fisticuff range, but just right outside of it at best, or at worst, and then keeping quite distance at absolute best. So. But he is skilled in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's trained in Aikido, Karate, Kendo, fencing, so you can see those are more defensive swordsman techniques. But there's more to it. He's also a master marksman, as we've already described. He can fire his pistols, and he can bounce them off walls and things like this. He understands trajectory, and he's able to go and hit at his maximum range of each of his guns. He does take into consideration gravity, wind, speed, all this. You'll see that when we get into a little bit more. He's also a master swordsman. When it comes to using his sword, he is very, very lethal. He is considered a better swordsman than Crow. Crow's a master hand-to-hand combatant. He is absolutely fantastic in hand-to-hand combat. However, with swordsmanship, this is where he is not nearly as powerful. But he's surpassed Crow in both marksmanship and in... I totally put Easter. Oh, no, I didn't. But he's both a master marksman and swordsman. And his swordsmanship is actually quite interesting. He's been able to mimic and perfectly recreate several anime sword techniques. One's considered almost impossible to master or even to accomplish. He's been able to accomplish several of these. Some of these he does utilize his gadgetry to be able to utilize these techniques, such as his grapnel launchers, which you'll see, and you can actually see right on his gauntlets there, these 2 grapnel launchers. Just to kind of explain how Crow, the New Gods of Death, a lot of them, and Wolf get around with their grapnel launchers. They have roughly about, give or take, about 100 feet or so of high tensile strength wire that is retractable, but they can launch that from right above their hand. It's right on top, right below the knuckles, and they can go and launch that to swing around. So they don't actually have a grappling gun, it's just grapple launchers, and then the rest of the wire goes into their gauntlets. But he's utilized that to mimic some of these anime type sword blade. His ingenuity, well, this is where things get interesting. See, he tries, as I've already explained, he tries to keep fights at a distance. Always attempts to anger his opponents to keep them focused and irrational. Now, this is key here. Pay very close attention to that part. Always attempts to anger his opponents to keep them focused on him and irrational. All right, this is where things are going to get interesting. He utilizes his grapnel launchers to keep his opponents confused and at as much of a distance as possible. Once again, coming back to utilizing distance. He does rely heavily on guerrilla warfare, often attempts to ambush his prey, if you will, or his opponents through the use of stealth. There's hit and run tactics. That's his type of fighting. He's also immune to sprays and gases, much like Crow. As you can see on his face, he does have a rebreather right there, and it is filtered, heavily filtered, so he can always have clean air. If there is any kind of oxygen in the room at all, even if there's any gases, he'll be able to breathe. He can also go and breathe underwater due to the rebreather as well. Sort of. He won't drown. He would just suffocate because it doesn't provide him with oxygen per se, unless it's able to filter out the water, which he doesn't have necessarily a filter of water. So water can eventually get in, but it does prevent it. It's a weird utilization, but that's how it works. That's how it operates. So where are we at? Okay. He relies heavily on stealth to ensure quick victories rather than prolonging combat. He does not like to have long combat. He likes to go and just get in and just get it done. And just like Crow, he also has a glide gate. Alright. So, what else does he offer them? This is where we get into his gadgets. Much like Crow, he comes with the standard smoke and flash bullets. 5 each. But his katana, or his wakizashi, is called the Predator Wakizashi. This is actually given to him from the leader of the former Death Gods before he died. It's a serrated tungsten carbide blade. This thing does not really break very easy at all. And it's also serrated, so this does some serious damage. He has got 2 Colt 1911 handguns. And he's always making sure before he goes into combat, he's got 2, both of them are fully loaded. He's got 1 magazine of napalm ammo. He's got 1 magazine of acid ammo. This acid is actually strong enough to eat through steel, so keep this in mind. He's also got explosive ammo. We're talking small explosions, nothing like super high powered, but as powerful as explosive ammo could be. It does do damage, and it does explosive damage. So just to break that down, it would actually, it's still powerful, but it's not like TNT per se. He's also got some extra magazines just to kind of show off what his ammo is. It is hollow points. And as I said earlier, he has 2 gauntlet grapnel launchers. So, let's get into what his opponent is. His opponent is Red Hood. His real name is Jason Todd. He's 19 years old. He died at actually a young age. We'll explain this a little more in a sec. 6 feet tall, 225 pounds. He's a full-time vigilante in Gotham City, which is his area of operation. He also does travel around the globe. He's been to places such as Miami. He's been in other places where he has had to go and take on other supervillains, and in some cases even superheroes. As for his personality, he's cocky, arrogant, and highly intelligent. Okay? So, when it comes to intellect, we're looking... This guy he's not a Tim Drake, has been compared to being smarter in some cases than Batman. But he is up there with like the likes of Nightwing. So he is a critical thinker for sure, and he can quickly analyze situations to make the best of them and take advantage of them. He's also a former Robin. When he was Robin, he actually was killed by the Joker, he beat him severely with a crowbar, and then blew up the warehouse where he was being held. And then he was also resurrected by Ra's al Ghul's Lazarus Pit. And he's a member of the Outlaws, which consists of a few different members. We've seen Arsenal, which is the former Speedy, Green Arrow's sidekick, and Starfire. It's also, recently, it's actually had Bizarro as a member. And, remember her name. I don't remember her name, but Wonder Woman's former sidekick. So I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but they've all been members of the Outlaws. They're very similar to the Outsiders, except they are, well, outlaws. They're anti-heroes. So do they get along with the superhero community? Yes. At the same time, no. All right. As for his feats, now this gets interesting. As you can see, this is just strength feats alone. So just to name a few, he's broke a large talon. Okay, these are the assassins which are like superhumanly enhanced assassins, ninja assassins rather, of the Court of Owls. He's cut the arm off of an alien lizard with one swing. One hand tossed a terrorist out of an airplane right through the front window, or windshield if you will. Just with one arm. It's quite a bit of strength. He was able to put Lobo on his knees on the ground with one swing to the back of the head with with the butt of his sword. So he was probably disoriented, but to look at the amount of strength you'd need to do that, since he is a Zarian, they're comparable to Superman. Just to throw that out there. That takes quite a bit of strength. But he could have also hit a weak point in his skull and things like this. But Zarians are also known for a ridiculous healing factor, and even being able to essentially just avoid death through any means possible. Like, their body just doesn't let them die. They will literally regrow, just like Deadpool or Wolverine. He can briefly hold up a roof of a building, and then we're talking a collapsing roof that's also on fire. He's able to hold up for a brief amount of time. He's capable of flipping Bane, who's roughly 300 pounds normally. He stalemates Batman in combat, generally, not always. He cut off the head of a dinosaur in one swing, and it was roughly Tyrannosaurus Rex size, maybe a little bit bigger. Capable of flipping Susie Sue, who is at least 600 pounds. Flipped her right over his shoulder. He punched through the hull of an underwater submarine, so you got to be looking at the pressure. We don't need to break this down. You can see his strength feats are ridiculous. He sent Deathstroke flying with one kick, and Deathstroke is not known for that. Deathstroke's also superhuman. And he was able to kick him hard enough to make him fly through the air. He easily defeated a group of Venom users. Now keep in mind, Bane is a Venom user. He's a masterful user, and he's also very tactically thinking. These were just like regular thugs they were just juiced up on Venom, so they had ridiculous amounts of strength. Now we'll break Venom down here in a second, but it roughly gives you about 10 times the strength and durability that you normally had. So easily defeats a group of them, and if you look at the comic, it was something like 12 or 13 of them all at the same time. Pretty ridiculous. And he was able to break Supergirl's grip while he was on Venom. But we're also looking at, she probably didn't know he was under the effects of Venom in the moment. Which means she wasn't utilizing her full strength. Full strength, he would not have been able to. As for durability, well, he's got bulletproof armor. That's the extent of it, is bulletproof. Okay, can withstand the pressure of deep water. Okay, so you can go a little bit farther, and it'll still, physics already state it would still hurt him, but he would have to quickly get out of there, just at a rate that's not too fast or too slow. So he could be crushed, but he's also able to still move with it, so his muscles are able to withstand the damage of it. His skull, however, would not. This is where DC, they're very, very overpowered. There's a reason why people look at Marvel as weaker heroes, more powerful villains, while in DC they're godlike heroes and anti-heroes, and their villains are less so. Even their godlike beings are still less than the heroes, almost always. Noticeable here. But he was knocked back by Frankenstein, who has superhuman strength. And yes, we are talking a very, very similar one to that of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It is actually, that is directly where the basis of it is. We are talking ridiculously strong, and was able to just withstand that and just, okay. He took he tanked an explosive batarang, survived getting hit by a bazooka. It's ridiculous. That's with his armor, of course. That force would have been ridiculous. He was set on fire by Roy Harper, who is Arsenal, and he was unfazed. Resistant to paralytic toxins, so you can't, anything that would be like, you wouldn't be able to paralyze him through a toxin. And he survived the all-cast cleansing ritual. I'm still learning about this, so I got to go and do a little research on that still. But that's supposed to be really, really ridiculous. And the fact that he survived it is a huge, huge feat in the DC universe. As for his speed and agility, he's dodged a point-blank gunshot from a handgun, so we're not looking at something like a 50 caliber sniper rifle. We're not looking at that. Nothing, no high-powered snipers, bazookas, things like this. But he has dodged sniper fire as well. He's kept up with talons, which have enhanced speed. They're low-tier superhuman speed. Okay, so they're not a speedster per se, but they are superhuman. Is stated to be faster than Red Robin, who is considered the fastest of the Bat family. Incredibly fast. He's dodged attacks from Lady Shiva, who's also a master martial artist, and she's considered one of the best in the DC universe. Dodged hits from a weakened Bizarro. Keep in mind, this is a weakened Bizarro who is fully superhuman. Well, it's alien, and he can keep up with like normal speedsters, even weakened, and he was able to quickly dodge that. He hit Green Arrow before Green Arrow could even react. He outran a man driving a vehicle. He's ridiculous. He dodged attacks from James Gordon's Bat mech suit, which is similar to the new 52 version of the Bat mech, or the Justice Buster, I think is what it's called. It's very, very similar to that, and he was able to just dodge attacks willy-nilly, no problem. Fast enough to dodge heat vision with reflective properties as well. So quite fast, and most that have heat vision, it's almost instantaneous, roughly about the speed of light. Pretty crazy. All right, what else do we got? So now we got his combat capabilities. So we have his martial arts skills. Now, when I list these, keep in mind, he can use them to their fullest capabilities, as he is very, very capable, just similar to Batman. Aikido, Krav Maga, Salat, Taekwondo, Karate, or Karate, if you will, Capoeira, Kickboxing. He's also learned a magic negating martial arts. It literally removes mystical properties of a fighter that could be using mystical arts. So sorcerers. Think Doctor Strange. He could stop him. Think Zatanna. Stops that. So, very, very capable fighter. He's also an acrobatic fighter. Keep in mind, these magic negating martial arts were taught by Talia al Ghul herself, which is Batman's former lover, Damian Wayne's mother, and Ra's al Ghul's daughter. She's also a very, very high-class assassin in the DC universe, considered one of the best. But she pales in comparison even to Red Hood. As for his ingenuity, he's immune to mind control completely. He is toxin resistant, and he's capable of bullet time at times. And this has been stated directly in the comics. He is capable of literally almost going to the point of his senses react so quickly that it's almost as if everything slows down. So now we're looking at some sort of superhuman thinking capability, which is going to be similar to the Thinker and to the Flash, where time just seems to slow down when they're doing things like that. Helmet and domino mask underneath have night vision. So his Red Hood helmet and the domino mask he wears underneath from his former Robin days all have night vision. As for his gadgets, he comes with his helmet, which can also be used as an improvised explosive. He comes with batarangs. It's never listed how many he has. He also comes with an IWI Jericho 941. He comes with 2 of those, which are equivalent to like Desert Eagles. And he fires those no problem. They're semi-automatic. He's also got 2 M1911s. Once again, those are going to be standard issue combat-ready pistol or handguns. He's got 2 of those. And he's got his automatic rifle. It's not really stated what rifle he uses, but it's assumed it's like an M16 or it's a M4 carbine, which is what it appears to be. Not to be confused with the AR-15, which is also semi-automatic. Yeah. But he also comes equipped with a shotgun and a rocket launcher if he needs to really bring out the quite literal big gun. He's also got a taser, and his suit itself is a taser, a very, very high-powered taser that can actually knock an Amazon on her butt. That's pretty powerful, considering regular taser doesn't really do anything to them at all. Why would you need that? But this explains it. Superhumans, right? The metahumans, if you will. He also comes with 2 swords. They're just katanas. He's got an electrified gliding wings. They're electrified because they are powered, so he does need them to be able to glide. But they're also electrified that if somebody touches them, well, then they're shocked and they're damaged. He's also got the standard Bat Family grappling gun. He's also got a miniature high-powered laser which can cut through bank vaults and metal and all this. He comes with some bolas, a crowbar, which is a nod to what the Joker used on him. He enjoys going after the Clown Prince of Crime with that crowbar. He's also got his infamous Chris dagger, which is kind of the wavy dagger, if you will. He also comes equipped with 2 standard, it looks like trench knives, but they are combat knives, we know that. He also comes with the Venom drug, which roughly increases physical strength and durability by 10-fold. It's also short-lasting and highly addictive. All right. So, whoops. What does everybody think? Are we thinking we need to go and analyze this any further? Yeah, a lot of it's already been analyzed. As you guys know, I do the analysis during the feats, generally speaking, just because it becomes easier. If I was going to separate the two, then it would be if we had a guest. Generally. We don't really need to break out too much of this, but when it looks at the strengths of feet, or the feats of strength, the Venom drug is going to go and double that. So we're going to go back to that so we can talk about this. So, we know his last one here broke Supergirl's grip while on Venom. We know that was the case. So, that's going to be his max times 10, if you will. But he's also, if he were to go and, let's say, break Talon's bones, like a Talon's bones, especially a large one at that, he was able to snap his neck, is what happened. He did that while not under the effect of Venom. While under the effect of Venom, he can easily outclass those guys in strength. All of these feats, besides the breaking Supergirl's grip while on Venom, he did without Venom. That should say a lot. So, punching a hole, punching through the hull of an underwater submarine to escape, he'd literally be able to just fingers right through, rip open, just like standard superhumans. No problem. So keep this in mind. Alright. As for his durability, we also have to look at that too. Bulletproof armor. Well, now he's going to have bulletproof armor plus essentially bulletproof skin. He can easily withstand the pressure of deep water then. So his durability increases. Knockback by Frankenstein probably wouldn't be knockback as hard or as far. Tanked an explosive battering, easily wouldn't tank it. Get hit by a bazooka, could do that. Probably bare skin at that point. This is the weird part about this is he's supposed to be toxin resistant. Well, venom itself is a toxin, it's a drug. This is where things kind of get a little weird here because venom does work on him. He doesn't build up the resistance really either. It looks like as well. So that should say something. Also, if your strength is increased, you could also assume that your speed could potentially be increased. So he's not gaining more muscle mass per se. It's just increasing strength, just like a super steroid. So that's where things get interesting. So if we're looking at character pros and cons, we need to look at this at this point. So what does Wolf bring to the fight that's going to be a huge game changer? Well, he's a master marksman and a master swordsman. So he gets into a sword fight with Red Hood. He's going to have that upper hand. He gets into, and we know that he's studied some swordplay, and he can master a sword or two swords in one sword. And we know he's quite capable of just going right through dinosaurs and alien arms. But we're looking at it. This is also a guy who's quite ingenious when it comes to swordsmanship. He mimics anime swordplay techniques, so he can do some really crazy attacks. So that should say something. So everybody knows that classic the samurai showdowns, and they just both fling through each other, and then one comes out as the victor, or the other one is slain. That's the kind of thing he could do. But see, he can achieve really, really high speeds with it because he can use his grapple launcher. So that should say some things. Plus, on top of that, it really rips through things versus just standard sword. So he could technically rip through a sword if he does it correctly and he hits at a high enough speed and with a high enough strength. He also comes equipped with his carbon fiber weave plate armor, which is going to be better than just standard bulletproof armor generally. This is also going to be more impact resistant as well. So when it comes to durability, like just armor durability, you got more durability in the armor from Wolf than you would from Red Hood. However, Red Hood's been able to take explosions. Wolf is not. He's been able to take enough force from a superhuman, but we've also got Red Hood up there too. Red Hood and Wolf's durability. Red Hood definitely comes with, he's more durable when it comes to when it comes down to ingenuity. Well, overall, Red Hood would have more ingenuity. But there's going to be certain instances because Red Hood doesn't mind being at long distance. He's not a master marksman like Wolf is. A better shot, we're looking at Wolf. Wolf is going to be able to do some trick shots, some really interesting shots, and he does it with pistols. And he's also been able to avoid automatic gunfire with up to 5 feet away. Now, we know that Red Hood's been able to do that as well. He keeps up with the likes of Tim Drake, who's able to dodge automatic gunfire in close proximity in a sewer. That's pretty intense. But he's able to 5 feet away and just parkour all the way out of it. but he also utilizes his grappling launchers. He uses his grappling techniques a lot more, and will try to go and avoid up close quarters combat. While Red Hood is going to be very similar in that fashion, but he is not as skilled at shot. So this is where you're going to have some differences. Wolf is not a master martial artist, but he's a master, well, hand-to-hand martial artist. He's a master swordsman, which he's going to go and he'll be able to best Red Hood at. And then when it comes to his marksmanship, he can. So as long as he keeps his distance, he's going to have an edge. And actually, he'll have a pretty good edge. It's not a guaranteed victory. As for they have a lot of the same types of things. He comes with a glide cape. Red Hood comes with electrified gliding wings. They both prefer to keep their combat with firearms. We know that Wolf has very, very limited ammo, but he's going to be doing trick shots. He's going to be able to go and hit his mark far more often and far easier than Red Hood could. But the other thing is we've got his ingenuity here. And what I said earlier, pay close attention to this. Because, I'm going to go and get over this, this is actually determined to be a huge weakness of Red Hood, because once he goes into rage mode, this is where even villains and heroes that he could normally easily defeat, they get the upper hand and win. Because he goes into rage mode. His rage is actually, it's a really huge strength, but it's also a glaring weakness. While Wolf doesn't really have this glaring weakness. He has a weakness, as in his hand-to-hand combat is not as skillful as Red Hood's. So up in close quarters combat with just hand-to-hand combat, that's where you're going to have a huge weakness for Wolf. But when it comes to ranged combat or swordsmanship, then you've got Wolf, who will easily be able to go and dispatch in those areas. So combat capabilities, we'd have to actually give more of an edge just through those two means there. You have to give that actually to Wolf. It's a slight edge, but his durability is a bit less. So he's never been able to tank an explosion. As for what does Red Hood bring, that's where things get a little interesting. When you look at Red Hood, we are looking at... we do have some more things going on. We're going to go over the gadgets. Red Hood's durability. This is the part, that's the big thing. Your speed and agility, similar. Very, very similar. Speed and agility is going to be roughly about the same. When it comes to his evasion, again, we're looking at masterful shots versus they're expert at best, or superhuman. You hear where I'm saying this? So really, when it looks at it, his evasive skills, however, they are very, very skillful, because being able to avoid heat vision is actually a huge feat in itself. But also, he's also able to keep or actually outrun a man on a vehicle, in a car. His overall speed is greater than Wolf's. Evasive maneuvers and all this are roughly about, Red Hood being a little bit better than him. So, edge and speed and agility is going to go a little bit to Red Hood. Durability, you got a pretty good chunk into Red Hood. When it comes into strength, that's going to be Red Hood. When it comes to martial prowess and ingenuity, that's going to be a slight edge to Wolf. Now we both know, or we all know, that Red Hood has got limited ammo as well, because he's dependent on his ammo. However, he's also more rash, and he's not afraid to go and whip out his automatic and he's not afraid to go and bust out his rocket launcher and blow something up. This is where the edge goes too, because you've also got where I said about the background information. Cocky, arrogant, often underestimates others, so he would underestimate. This is where Wolf would underestimate him and look at him like he's, you're just trying to go and be like Crow. That's how he would look at it. You're trying to be like one of us. Okay, good luck. You're too colorful. You've got a red mask, a bright red mask. You're not going to be super stealthy. Look at us. We're all in darker clothing. We're going to be able to blend in a little bit more with our environment. We're going to go and use that Greyman capability. And he also never gives up. It's a huge thing. Even when he's in a losing battle, he doesn't give up. And that often can be his huge weakness, because situations where he is totally outclassed, he won't give up. He'll keep going. As for, so we hadn't go over speed yet. We need to go over this one more time real quick for Curtis. His speed and agility, he's more acrobatic in combat than Crow. Crow is considered is a very, very highly acrobatic fighter. Even by DC standards, there's some that are going to be more acrobatic. You get Nightwing, you got Tim Drake, Batman, arguably, potentially, Catwoman. You got guys like that, right? We've got characters like this, but he's considered up there in roughly that realm. That's how he flies around. But he's actually more acrobatic than Crow. So this is upwards towards Tim Drake and Nightwing. So that's he's gonna have his movement. He may not be able to move as fast, but he's gonna be he's moving around a lot. That's all he does throughout combat. But yes, he's not gonna have the same speed capability. But remember this right here. Always attempts to injure his opponents to keep them focused and passionate. This is going to be a huge weakness. This is a glaring weakness. This is where his ingenuity far exceeds. He's going to have a huge advantage. Because this right here is going to be utilizing Red Hood weakness right there. Wolf's just a standard human, so he can have his neck broken. He can be... he could still be killed by regular means. A high enough fall, he could go and die. Enough impact, enough force to vital organs, things like this, that can kill him. But, once again, he's able to go and tank Reaper, so we know that it comes down to strength and all this, carbon fiber, all this. Will he be able to go and take some hits from Red Hood? Yes, even on Venom, he can take some hits. It would hurt a lot, and he would be upwards, at least to the strength of Reaper. Red Hood would, under the effects of it. So, what do we got here? We've got... So we got one for strength. That's going to go to... we still have gadgets going too. So let's go over the gadgets real quick. So I'm gonna go and start tallying these up right now. We got gadgetry. Let's take a look at that. So Wolf comes with smoke pellets and flashbangs. Those right there are going to be pretty useful against Red Hood. Okay. So, keep in mind, these are both human characters. They can die from getting shot in the head. They can get killed by getting shot in vital organs, right? Or stabbed, or ripped apart, things like they can die by any standard human means, right? Okay. Smoke and flash pellets are going to be used to confuse, daze, intimidate, all this. Flash is going to be enough that it can disorient. Think of flashbang. That's how this works. Smoke pellets, they're going to create a big puff of smoke for a few minutes. And it's really dark gray, black in some cases as well. So those are going to give an edge against Red Hood, the flash pellets especially. If we're looking at, Red Hood's gadgets, the helmet as an explosive is going to be somewhat useful, but not really, because when it comes down to it, he'd have to go and set it off at a specific time. He'd have to go and trick him in that means. As for his guns, all this, really, he's a lot more rash, so he's more likely he'll start firing and firing and firing. He's going to try and go and distract and all this with his guns as well and his batterings. He's got more to use, but he's not as good of a shot, and he's a lot more rash. He's going to be a lot more easily swayed to just start firing, right? So things like the rocket launcher would guaranteed get use. Shotgun, he would guaranteed try and go and use that, as well as the automatic rifle. Now, he doesn't really have anything. He doesn't have any explosive batterings. He's just got batterings, the standard batterings. His high-powered laser, that would come into some use to him. The Venom drug, that's going to increase his durability and things like this. But really, when it comes to gadgets so far already, he's just coming with just straight offense. His taser suit is going to be his greatest defense. All of his armor is bulletproof. That includes his helmet as well. Bulletproof doesn't mean it's immune, right? Okay? So armor-piercing rounds, it could take a shot, but it would start to break. In fact, it would most likely be pretty beat to heck. Okay. So, let's go back to here. So, we already covered flash pellets are going to be effective. He's got full bulletproof armor. We have defensive and distracting capabilities over here, trickery. But here's two things we need to go and play in here. He's got acid armor. It's enough, as I explained, it's enough to go and steel. This would be enough to include Red Hood's armor. Plus, on top of that's acid ammo, so that impacts, bam, it's going to start burning holes through him. It can be a small hole or a small crack, just enough that bullets can start going through, and all this, and he's going to have a huge advantage against him. So, acid ammo, he's got one magazine, roughly about 20 rounds. He's going to have that capability. 20 rounds? No. It's 12 rounds. 12 rounds of acid ammo. I was thinking more on the assault rifle with Red Hood. My apologies. But he's also got explosive ammo, so if the acid doesn't etch through, he can start destroying it with explosive ammunition. And we know he's a better shot than Red Hood. So he's got enough. And if he does decide he's going to go and run out of his 2 magazines in his 2 Colt 1911 handguns, just 2 initial ones, he's got 2 extra ones. He can always use his grapnel launcher as well to go and he could use that also as a firearm, if you will, as a last-ditch effort. So you've already got some huge glaring weaknesses. When it comes to gadgetry, the offense, and defense even, it's going to go right to Wolf. And it's a pretty glaring weakness, not even really close. So, let's go and analyze these things here. This is where things are going to get real interesting. Like I said before, this is going to be close. So we look at strength. That's going to go 1 point into Red Hood. Durability, it's not super close, but their durability is, when it comes to their armor, Red Hood is outclassed on armor. What he can take, however, is not outclassed, and with Venom, that's going to outclass Wolf. So armor-wise, Wolf wins when it comes, but it's not by much. When it comes to just overall durability, it's still going to go to, that would go to the Red Hood. It wouldn't be too huge, but it would still be enough. When it comes to speed and agility, it's close, but Red Hood's got the advantage. When it comes to martial combat, in close quarters combat, Red Hood wins. It would be something that Wolf would be trying to get out of as quickly as possible. So we're looking at a fleeing Wolf and tricking, or his trickery. So this would be where the high intelligence of Red Hood would have to go and snap right into place real quick to be able to actually utilize the weakness there. So, but other than that, in every other category with swordsmanship and marksmanship, if he's in mid to long range, that's hands down going to Wolf, not even a question on this. So we're going to give the point to Wolf. So far it's 3-1. Ingenuity, that's hands down, that's going to go to Wolf. The high intelligence, he's got to be able to utilize the weaknesses. However, Wolf is going to do everything he possibly can to keep that long range. If he has to get to mid-range, he's got some things he can utilize that would be able to disorient and trick Red Hood. So ingenuity is going to go to Wolf. As for gadgetry, that's a hands down. That's not even close. That will go to Wolf. Now, this is where it's close. I honestly, in the power, it's not going to work, because if we look at the power, okay, he's got the power of the All Blade. So I'm going to show that off real quick so you can see what I'm talking about here. He can summon the All Blades. Well, he can't even summon it against Wolf because Wolf is not evil. And it's got to be in the presence of true evil. A pair of mystical blades manifested from Jason's own soul, designed to kill magic-based threats. Blades can only be summoned in the presence of true evil. Jason has even shown the ability to summon dozens of All Blades at once. There's also instances where it's been claimed that he can just utilize them whenever he wants. It's not exactly it. It's more often, this is what we're seeing here, true evil. That comes down to the writers. It's inconsistent. So we're going to go and just follow this here. Can only be summoned in the presence of true evil. So, when it comes down to it, end of the day, I would argue this is at least a 60% chance that Red Hood would lose. The other 40% would be Red Hood wins. So Wolf wins this comic war here. This match, he wins. But it's super, super close. This is our closest one yet, I would argue. But it comes down to that long range and mid range combat. Wolf outclasses it. And plus on top of that, the acid ammo that he's got, it can go and burn right through steel. Even if he's able to go get the acid off, Red Hood's his armor would still be damaged, which provides a weakness. Which we know that you've got your savant with firearms, which is Wolf. He's going to utilize every weakness he possibly can in that armor. He's going to go and just knock it right out of the ballpark. And like I said, Red Hood would have to get into the close range combat, which is where he's going to be able to, he'll be able to really utilize his Batman training, his vigilante training from Batman, and Talia and Ra's al Ghul. That's where he's going to be able to utilize that. So, as for this upcoming Friday's episode, it's going to be Extremely Conservative Woman of Totally Naked Man, or rather Mythos imprint comics. lore versus Batwoman from DC Comics. Let's see if these battling beauties will be able to go and conquer one another. Or are we going to see one victor, or are we going to see cancellation? Who's going to win?